Dun 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 dun. Hi guys, what's up? Erica here from Highway 49 RC. Thank you so much to my patrons and channel members for making these videos possible. You guys are the backbone of the channel and I love you guys, so thank you. This is episode 5 of the Kyosho Javelin build. Now hang on a minute, Erica. I thought we were done with this. I thought you've been running this on the track, having a grand old time. And yeah, I have been. This thing's been a ton of fun to rip around. It's got so much charm to it, and I have really fallen in love with it. Now, the brushed motor that I've got in it, it's a Trinity Speed Gems 94 Jade. It's a 15-turn quad. It gets pretty hot pretty quick. And every 6 to 8 minutes or so, I like to let this thing cool off so that I don't cook the motor. But come on, that's lame. Who wants to let their awesome little RC dune buggy cool off before they can keep driving it? Not me, that's for sure. So what we're going to do is slap a water-cooled Kyosho motor in this bad boy and a full water cooling system. Now the water cooling system in this is going to be a little bit different than in my water-cooled Traxxas Splash. If you're curious about that build series, check that out just up there in the corner. Now the main way that it's going to be different is that we're not going to be water cooling the ESC, we're just going to be water cooling the motor. The other difference is that we're not going to be doing a cooling jacket for the motor. The end bell of the motor actually has a built-in coolant channel for the coolant to flow through. With all that said, let's take a quick look at some of the parts that I've got for this water cooling system. So for starters, I've got my 2 Kyosho REV Super Marine water-cooled motors. If you want to learn more about these, check out the video I did up there on them. Then we're going to need a pump to pump the coolant around. This is a coffee maker pump that pumps the water to make your coffee. Space is an absolute premium on the Javelin, so having a tiny pump is super important. I had to do some nonsense to get the inlet and the outlet reduced down to sizes that would accommodate my silicone tubing that I got, which is a very nice orange color, matches the build phenomenally. The only issue with this pump, however, is that it is not self-priming, meaning it has to have water gravity fed to it in order for it to actually pump any fluid around. So that means our coolant tank is going to have to be sat above the pump in one way or another. Then we also need a radiator of sorts, right? So I've got some copper refrigeration tubing. This stuff is 1/8 inch diameter. And this, I'm not sure, looks like maybe 5/16. This is the thicker stuff that I'm going to be using as the tanks on my radiator. So if you're not familiar with how a radiator is set up, you've got 2 side tanks, and then a bunch of little pipes going between the tanks that cool off the fluid. I did a little soldering experiment right here, and I can solder this stuff together with just a normal soldering iron, which is great. So that's going to make it really easy to build myself a little radiator. I also got a Team Brewed fan to push some air across the radiator and get that fluid cooled down. So, in terms of component location, my water pump is going to go in this nice gap right here. I'm also hoping I can fit my receiver in there as well. My radiator is going to go just here against the rear shock tower where my ESC currently is. The rear shock tower, being aluminum, will act as some extra thermal mass to help dissipate heat, which will be great. So, with all that said, I'm going to start with making a radiator. Hopefully it goes well, wish me luck, and let's jump into it. Here's my unsoldered radiator. I was able to make some side tanks out of the larger tubing, just drilled a bunch of holes in them and pinched off the ends of the tube to create a nice little tank, and then that fits onto all my cross pipes and voila, you basically have some sort of radiator. Now, obviously we need an inlet and an outlet. I don't quite yet know where those are going to go, but for now, I'm going to task myself with the difficult challenge of soldering this together. That's going to be quite difficult. And lots of soldering later, I've got a very nice looking radiator. This thing actually was not that hard to solder together, surprisingly. This is my outlet and this is my inlet, and additionally it sits down on the chassis against the rear shock tower extremely nicely. I mean, like, look at that. You can't get any cleaner than that. I'm actually somewhat regretting not putting fins on the radiator because I'm a little worried that this may not be enough surface area to actually dissipate all the heat generated by the motor. I'm hoping that this will be good enough, but we kind of don't know until we actually test it out. Speaking of testing, I need to pressure test this and make sure that there are no leaks. So I'm going to hook up some compressed air to it, stick it in a bowl of water, and see if we've got any bubbles. Okay, I've got my tub of water, I've got my radiator pinched off on one side, and I've got some tubing on the other. Just dunk that in there, put a little compressed air to it, and see what happens. Whoa! A little too much compressed air, I take it. I do not see any bubbles, guys. That is phenomenal. Yeah, I don't see any bubbles. That is great news. Let me see if I can flip it over and look at the other side. Yeah, we're looking great, guys. Fantastic. Nailed it first try. With my radiator nice and leak-free, I now need to fabricate a mount for the fan. Tucked in there nicely, and the mount I made for it turned out very nice as well. Next up, I'm going to work on mounting the pump. The little section that I blacked out there in Sharpie on the side plate is where I'm going to grind it away so that I have better access to mount the pump to that cross member that you see tucked just under there. There's my spot of grinding all finished up. Looks almost factory, I'd say. And the pump settles in there gorgeously. Look at that, right against that cross member so I can zip tie it down. And then the outlet is going to get zip tied to the cross member up there. I've got this zip tie on there just to hold the inlet and outlet together nicely so they don't move around. And this zip tie in the corner is to keep the hose from kinking. It adds a little bit of pressure all the way around the hose, and that'll prevent a kink. Good tip if you need a tight bend somewhere. All right, folks, my bench is getting messy, but I've made some serious progress. I didn't film it because it was a lot of kind of fiddling and messing around with stuff, but I got the top deck back on. The pump is nicely mounted underneath there. I guess I didn't show you that, but it's zip tied on very nice and securely. You'll notice that I also routed the hoses to the motor. Yes, got the outlet going to the radiator and the inlet coming from the pump. And of course I've got my fan mounted up, my radiator mounted up, zip tied in there nicely. Everything fits phenomenally. I mean, the fit and finish of this so far is turning out amazing. I mean, I think you gotta agree. I also added a connector to my pump. So you might be asking yourself, well, Erica, what about a tank? Well, it kind of occurred to me that I may not really need a tank for this build. I might really just need some sort of fill port like this. These are just a couple of brass hose barbs put in a T. And so basically I'd hook my radiator outlet to one side, my pump inlet to the other, and then this would just basically be a fill port that I'd pour some water in, just kind of use this to bleed the air out of the system, and then just let it run. I think that might do the trick. I'm not sure. We'll see how hot the whole thing gets, but I think I'm gonna try that first. Speaking of trying things out, I want to do a flow test. Everything's ready to be hooked up and run. So I think, yeah, let's head to the bathroom and do a flow test. All right, welcome to the bathroom. It wouldn't be right to do a water cooling video without having you in my bathroom, of course. So this is my pump supply right here, and I'm just gonna be feeding it with a bottle of water. I figure that's the easiest way to test it for right now. And this orange line is my outlet. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, we got fluid in there. Wow, that is diabolically slow. Oh, okay, yeah, it was just airlocked. There wasn't any air in, or there was too much air in there. That's why. There we go. Yeah, it was just airlocked. Okay, so this time what I'm gonna try and do is fill this guy up with water, stick another hose barb in there, and reattach the return, because I think the pump is having issues with sucking fluid out of the bottle, because I think there's like a vacuum going on and it doesn't like that because there's bubbles in the line, and it just doesn't seem to like that. So that's filled up right now. So now I should be able to fill this up with water. And let's see what she does. I think there's an air bubble caught in there. I'll try tipping the pump around, see if it'll get that air bubble out. It's hard to see what the flow rate is like in there, but it's totally doing it. All right, are you ready to see some air bubbles go through this hose? That's kind of our real test of flow. Pour a little bit out. Yep, there went some bubbles. Now it's a pretty fast, all things considered, so that's great. See if I can get a couple more. There you go. Yeah, see, that's flowing pretty good. Oh, there we go, now we got it stuck. Now there's air in there, but hey, that's a great test. All right, awesome. So now while this is running, let me pop the hose off and check our flow. Oh, perfect, look at that. Do you see that? Oh, that was fantastic flow. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely perfect, guys. That was fantastic flow. I am so thrilled with this thing. This is working fantastically. I think we're gonna be able to get away without a tank on this project, which is great because space is so limited on this car, and I really want to keep the weight down as well. Guys, the water cooling system is done. It's done! Yes, I am so unbelievably excited. Check out how clean everything looks. It really doesn't detract from the rig at all, which is incredible. I've got my ESC tucked right in there, my receiver, my fill port just there, and I've got my coolant return line. Yeah, this thing is looking sweet. So next up, all I need to do really is break in the motor real quick, get a battery charged, and we can go outside and test this thing. Yeah! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Let's go. Okay guys, so we're ready to go. I'm gonna unplug my fan just so that I can hear the pump running and so that I can actually hear if there's any air still in the system. So let's take our fill plug out and turn this on, turn my radio on. All right, pump is running. I'm having trouble getting it to prime. Let me try and get this hose off here. Maybe we can do something about it that way. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna put that back on there. All right, I can hear the pump. It is flowing water. Air bubbles are coming out, which is exactly what we want. While it's purging air, let's check our motor temp. We're looking at about 77 degrees, 75-ish degrees right now. It's probably about the same temperature outside, about 75 degrees. It's a very nice day. Okay, I think we should be ready to go. Let me push this hose on the rest of the way. Put our fill plug back in. So just for reference, my fan and the pump are running off of the receiver, which is great because I don't have to have any sort of external power regulator at all. So that makes this really nice. So I'm basically just gonna rip it up and down the yard until it gets hot, and then we'll bring it back in, check the temperatures, and we'll see how it works. Not quite as fast as it was before, but it's still fairly quick. I could probably gear it up a little bit. So I'm just gonna keep running it until it gets hot, and I'll come back to you guys. This thing is all full of freaking grass now. That's just lovely. I think what I'm gonna do is go in and gear this motor up, because I feel like it can handle a lot more. Because it's really not warm at all. I feel like I can probably push it a little bit harder. So I'm gonna go in, gear this thing up, and then we'll take it out and do some street laps. All right, so I have gone from a 19 tooth pinion up to a 25. That's a I don't know how to count, 6 tooth increase. So let's give this thing a shot. Oh yeah, all right. Let's do it. That's got some zip to it now. I can definitely hear the motor loading down, so that's a good sign. We're actually pushing it. Because this is a 550 motor instead of a 540. So it's a bigger motor, it's got more torque. Woo, almost hit the barriers, holy crap. All right, I've been doing circles for a minute now. Let's bring her in and see how hot she is. Okay, the end bell's warm. 92 degrees, 98 degrees. I can't really touch my radiator very well, but I feel some warm air coming off it, so that's good. But it's staying nice and cool, which is great. I'm kind of tempted to go put the 13 turn in here and see how fast that is. Should we do that? I think we should go do that. All right, my Type G Kyosho motor is all wired up, hooked up to my cooling system, and ready to go. This is a 13 turn, like I mentioned, and with a 25 tooth pinion, I think this thing is going to seriously rip. I mean, like, I think this thing is gonna go crazy, crazy fast. So let's go see. All right, here goes nothing. This is the best patch of road that I've got, the best vantage point, so I don't run this thing over or get run over. Let's see how fast she is. Oh yeah, that is quick. Heck yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so fast. I'm gonna keep doing this, get that motor nice and hot, and then we'll check the temperature. Alrighty, let's take a look at my temperatures here, see what's hot, see what's not. End bell is about 100 degrees. This thing is staying so cool. I'm impressed. A 13 turn with a 25 tooth pinion, this thing should be cooking hot. And I mean cooking. But it's hardly warm. That's freaking incredible. Well, since it's flipped over, let's do another temp check, just for funsies. 108. Yeah, looks like about a little over 100 degrees. Seems like my cooling system is really doing its job. That's freaking awesome. All right, guys, so at this point, we basically have a proof of concept. The cooling system on the Javelin seems to be working great because the motor is not getting hot, albeit we're not running it in the hardest of conditions going up and down the street. I recognize that. The real test is going to be on my boyfriend Brian's track, which I'm going to go and probably film at in a couple days. So speaking of the track, I think this current setup with the 13 turn motor and the 25 tooth pinion doesn't have enough get up and go. So I think what the winning combo is going to be is a 19 tooth pinion on the 13 turn motor. I think that's going to be really good. So I'll take my pinions when I go out to my boyfriend's track. I'll mess around with different sizes and see what works best. But I am thrilled with how the cooling system turned out. It looks so inconspicuous, like you wouldn't even know until you actually stopped and really looked at it, you know? It just looks so clean. I'm really happy with it. And it performs. That's the other thing. It performs and it seems like it's going to be really reliable, which is absolutely awesome, and I love having reliable rigs. So with that, guys, I hope you have enjoyed the Javelin build. I have had so much fun building this rig. It is so unique. It's got so much old school charm to it, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed the build. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please do leave a big fat thumbs up. Leave a comment down below, hit that subscribe button while you're at it. If you want to catch up with me outside of YouTube, head over to my Instagram at Highway49_RC. If you want to chat with fellow vintage RC enthusiasts, head over to my Discord server. And if you want to support me and the channel, consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. With that, guys, thank you again so much for watching, and I will see y'all on the next one.